bring the sword all right, please. Come to order.
Thank y'all. Please be seated. Yes.
Other media outlets to
Good. Thank you. Is the defense ready to go forward?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay. If you'll call your next witness.
Yes, ma'am, we would call Amy Ruffner to the stand.
Come on up, Ms. Ruffner, please.
Place your left hand over the Bible, raise your right hand. State your name, please.
My name is Amy L. Ruffner, Stinney.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm your testimony to the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a seat up here, please.
This thing work?
It works.
No.
Please state your full name, spell your last name for the record.
My name is Amy L. Ruffner. My last name is Ruffner. My first name is Amiel period Ruffner.
Ms. Ruffner, before you were Ruffner, what was your name?
Amy L. Steady.
Okay. And do you mind if I call you Amy?
Go ahead.
Okay. Amy, I can call you Ms. Ruffner if you like.
You wanna call
No,
Amy?
no, that's okay.
Okay. Amy, who was George Stinney your brother?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you were seated in the courtroom when your sister Catherine was testifying?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Let's go back to what you remember about South Carolina in 1944.
Nothing good.
Okay. And can you tell us what you mean by nothing good?
Well, okay, first I was born in a place called Pinewood, South Carolina.
Okay.
My father, to my knowledge, was a sharecropper.
Okay.
And we lived in Pinewood, not too far from my grandmother.
Okay.
My father needed work, so he proceeded to go to Ackerloo, which was close, to find work.
And is that because there was a lumber mill there?
Yes.
Okay. And when you guys got to Alcaloo, what kind of housing did you live in?
Well, the first house we lived in was a big old airy house. And beside it was like a ditch where like the water was running. And it was okay, but it was kind of airy. You know, like big and, well, nothing was there. So we moved in, and I remember on the side it was like a fig tree on the side, but in order to get to it, it was a driveway that was there, and over here was like a footbridge we had to cross to get to the house. We stayed there for maybe a couple of months or whatever. And
Now, in Alcaloo in 1944, was there a black area of town and a white area of town? Was it segregated?
yes,
Okay. And when you went to school, I think your sister testified that there wasn't anybody that looked like me at school. It was, you had all African Americans at one school
Yes,
and
it
all
was.
white people at another school.
I didn't know where their school was, but I know what school I went to, and all of us black.
Okay. And that's just the way it was back then.
Yes.
Okay. So did and your sister testified this too, but did the blacks and the whites intermingle in regards to, did y'all socialize with white folks and did you play with the white kids? And you're shaking your head no, but you need to give me a response like yes.
Well, I put it like this, my mother and father was strict. We could not go anywhere out the yard unless they gave us permission.
Okay.
Only thing we did was went to school and to church and back home, did our homework, and we stayed basically around the house. It was a few friends that they had there. When they went, they would take us with them.
Okay. And so that's just the way it was.
Yep, living in those days with my parents, that the way it was.
Okay. Amy, do you recall how old you were in 1944?
I was 8,
You were 8. But what year were you born?
1936, September the 21st.
Okay. All right. And so you heard your sister Catherine call you George's shadow.
That's what he called me.
Okay. So George called you that? And why would George call you his
Because every
shadow?
move he made, I was with him.
Okay. Did you look up to your brother George?
Yes, I did, because he was like my friend. We didn't know anybody there. So I took my brother, when he went someplace, I followed him. If he went outside the gate, which we had a place that had a gate around it, went there. We had one dog named Spot,
Okay.
and that was our companion, our playmate, or whatever. And we would go to the church up the hill. We went to Sunday school every Sunday morning, and we stayed at church. Sometimes they would have like things in the yard, like you cook and have food out there, whatever, you know. But it was nice. It was a good growing up. And then my daddy finally got a job at the sawmill, and we met other friends. But we still couldn't go to a place without permission.
Okay. And do you recall what kind of things you guys had? Money, toys, back in those days?
Okay, I put it like this. Whatever they could afford, they bought. But I remember one Christmas, the people there could have been the white people with the money or whoever. They would come through the neighborhood with fruits and apples, the basket and thing, and give us during the holidays.
Okay.
Well, they could have taken them other place too, but they did brought them there.
Okay, and so basically what you would get for Christmas, for example, you might get a toy and then,
Yeah.
and then some fruit and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and my mother loved fruit cake, and she always baked
But you had plenty to eat, I understand.
We did.
And I think your dad did a garden and things like
Yes,
that.
he did.
and you had a cow named Lizzie.
Yes.
And we'll talk about her in a few minutes. But basically you had the essentials, but there wasn't anything extra?
No.
Okay. And so your family wasn't well off? Was that the...
Well, we made it.
You made it?
We made it.
Okay. And your dad was able to feed all the children and
Yes,
work
he
his
was.
job at the mill?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And I think you said he had to plant a garden, and that was, y'all ate out of the garden too?
He had a garden with just about anything you could name there, except it wasn't a big garden, but we had enough.
And you owned a cow?
Yes.
And did you own a vehicle?
You crazy?
I didn't think you did, but I wanted to ask that question. So you didn't own a vehicle at that time,
No.
though. But you owned a cow,
We had a cow.
and you had a dog named Spot.
We had a spot.
Okay.
But we went to church one night and we came back, somebody killed our dog and put him in front of our yard.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, well, hey, that was how you live.
Yeah. And so, and you described for us basically it was a segregated town, and you know.
Well, at that time, I didn't see it.
Okay.
I really didn't see it. You know, until those girls came through. The first time I saw them was the girls came through. My mother had a job working with some people in their home, okay?
Let me ask you about. I'm gonna ask you about that. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to March 23rd. Okay. And explain to the judge why you at 8 years old would have such a vivid memory of these events. Why would you have such a good memory of this?
It was nothing else to do but go to school and read your books and think. And my mother and father were good Christian people, okay? And they brought us up to know the love of Jesus and to know right from wrong.
Right. But why do you remember the 23rd of March and the 24th of March?
Because I was with my brother.
Okay, but why does that stand out in your mind?
Because I was with him.
I understand that, but tell me, but what happened? What event happened that made you remember this incident?
When he came home from school, we came home from school together.
All right, is this on the 23rd?
Well, I couldn't tell you the exact date, but
Okay.
we came home from school.
Okay.
And my mother had come home because she had changed jobs and worked in the little school as the cook.
Right.
Okay. And my father worked at the sawmill.
Okay.
So we came on home and went in the house. All of us went in the house, and when my mother got home, she cooked.
Okay.
And we sat down and we ate. Then when it was time for my brother, his duty was to walk the cow.
Okay, that was one of his chores.
Right.
Okay. And so,
We took the car. I went with him. He always said, "Why you following me? You just like my shadow." I was. We went across the street to the railroad track and we sat there with the cow grazing.
okay.
And they sit there talking about whatever. And there's a lady live across the track named Miss Daisy May. And she would always come to her porch and wave and say, "You guys all right?" Yes, we were fine. While we were sitting there, these two young ladies came up pushing a bicycle. And we looked around. It was strange to see them in the neighborhood because I never saw them there before. And they said, "Oh, excuse us. Could y'all tell us where we could find some May Pops?" And we said no.
All right, let me ask you this. This is one of the things that the court brought up earlier with Catherine's testimony. You actually heard the girls ask about the flowers.
It wasn't no flowers. See, people getting that wrong. It was not flowers. It was maypops.
Okay. And tell us what the difference in a maypop and a flower is.
A maypop was a fruit.
I got you.
It grew like a lemon. And if you didn't get the right kind, it would tie your mouth up if you picked the wrong one.
So they were asking you for a fruit.
Yes.
Okay. And you were sitting there with George when this occurred.
Yes.
Now, did you later, Catherine said she was at the house, and did you later tell her about that?
Probably I did, but we went home. After that, when they left, they went on about their business, and they were pushing their bicycle and went in the direction of the sawmill. We went home.
All right. Let me ask you why why is this event important? Is it because these white girls were in the area? Is that...
Yeah, because we didn't see me there. We had a lady that lived in the area, and she sold eggs and things. And we would go up the hill where she lived near the church and we would purchase eggs and things. She was a nice lady. We never had no problem with no one.
Right.
You know, and she, as far as I know, she always lived up there. My mother would go up there, we would go up there and get eggs from her and bring them back to the house. We never had a problem.
Okay. And so, you distinctly remember that day with the girls pushing the bicycles?
Yes, I do.
Did you know either one of the girls?
Never saw them in my life.
And I believe I incorrectly pronounced the last name, and her name is Timms, which is one of the girls that was killed, but also the Benneker girl. You didn't know either one of those
I didn't
girls?
know none of them.
Okay,
We stayed in our section and they stayed in their section.
okay. And so that was an unusual event, and
It was very unusual.
and so that stuck out in your mind that
It
day?
did.
Okay. Now, tell us about what happened after the girls left with you and George. Were you and George still sitting there?
We sat there for a few minutes and they went on down the railroad track toward the sawmill. And eventually we got up and took the car back across the street, went in the backyard, turned the faucet on. The tub was there underneath the faucet. We filled it up with water, let the cow drink. Then after that, we took the cow down in the back and put the cow up.
Okay.
And then we proceeded to go in the house. My mother had food ready, so we sat and we ate.
Okay. And so you ate, and George ate supper? Is that
Yeah, we
basically
did,
it?
yeah.
Okay, so you had dinner already earlier that day.
No, we was in school that day.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so so you were in school that day, and so you had supper.
Right.
Okay. And what happened after you had supper?
It was time to go to bed.
Okay.
But later on that night, I distinctly remember my father said people came through the area saying, oh, those two girls, they hadn't seen them. They were looking for, asking everybody, you see those two girls that were in this area, whatever? And everybody said, no, there was a lot of people that got out and went help looking for those girls.
Okay. Who from your family went out?
My brother and my father.
When you say your brother, who went?
Yeah,
Who's your brother?
George.
So George actually was in the search party looking
Yes,
for the
he
girls?
went with my father looking.
Okay. And so your father actually helped look for these girls?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did you or George discuss with anybody that y'all had seen the girls earlier that day? Well, you don't know what George said discuss, but do you know whether?
No, well, you know, because when they came through, my daddy said, come and go with me, the two girls are missing. And maybe he told my father he saw them, but they went on about their business near the sawmill.
Okay.
But see, other things I've heard since then, so I will not
And I know
discuss
you
that.
can't tell us what you heard.
That's right.
Okay, but just to stick to what you know.
Yes,
So
and I'm telling
you don't
what I
know whether
know.
George told your father that he's seen the
Right.
girls and y'all had seen the girls or anything. You don't know about that.
But see, one thing I'll say this much, and I want to clear the air. We are not allowed to go any place without my mother's permission. They were very strict with us. We could not go no place, nowhere.
Okay. So your mother kept a pretty tight rein on y'all?
She did.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this about George. What kind of person was he?
All he wanted to do, he was smart. All he wanted to do was be an artist and draw. He loved to see airplanes. And he always had a little pad, my mother bought him. And every time he saw an airplane fly over, he would try to draw that airplane. Or either a car or whatever. He said he wanted to be an artist.
Okay. And so he was an artistic kind of person. Would you call him quiet or loud? Or?
He was quiet, but he was smart.
Okay. And now, the next day would have been, I think, a Saturday, or 24th,
Yes.
whatever the 24th would have been, okay? 1944. Do you recall the events that happened that day?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell us what happened.
One of my brothers came from my grandmother to spend the night with us.
And that was Johnny?
That was Johnny.
Okay,
And that day, my sister went to get her hair fixed. I think Charles took her. My brother Johnny, my brother George, and I were in the house. I came outside. My mother had ordered some chickens from Rhode Island Red.
okay.
And the little bitties was flying all over and playing all over the yard. And I was out there in the yard with them. When I looked up, I saw these two black cars, funny looking old time cars, long and whatever, pull up. And these men got out.
What
I
kind of
didn't.
men were they?
They were white guys that.
They look like me?
Yep, just like you.
And they look like the solicitor, did they?
Look just like you.
Okay.
And I hid in the chicken coop
Okay.
because I didn't know what to do.
And so, I mean, was that unusual in your mind? Is that something that you
I've
normally-
never seen them in that era before. What was I supposed to do? Stand up there and greet them?
I mean, you've seen white men before, obviously, but you never seen
Yeah,
them.
no. I've seen them before, but not the one in uniform.
Right. And so what happened?
I
What
got
did, what
in
did you, yeah, what did you do?
I went in the chicken coop and I stayed there.
Okay. So you hid out in the chicken coop.
Yeah, I stayed right there. So when they went in the back door,
Uh-huh.
through the house, and when I looked, they had both of my brothers.
Right.
And I said, George, y'all leaving me? Where y'all going? He said, go get Cat and Charles, get Ma. And they took my brothers away. And I never saw my brother alive again.
Let me ask you a question. You witnessed the police go in.
Yes, I did.
You witnessed police come out.
Yes.
What did they have with them when they came
Nothing
out?
but had my brothers in handcuffs and them little sticks, whatever they had.
Okay. Did you see them go into the house, bring clothing out, for example?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you would have remembered that?
Yes, I would
Okay.
have.
Now, had George had blood on his clothing the night before, would you have noticed that?
Yes, I would have.
And I talked to Catherine about the fact that you guys live in very close quarters. Did y'all pretty much know what each other were doing all the time?
Well, like I said, my mother, the way we lived, my mother had a section off for the boys.
Right.
You know, like you put a curtain there for the boys.
Right.
And then girls be section off.
Right.
Okay. And that's how we lived.
Okay. And so when Johnny came and he spent the night,
He was in the living room on the living room chair.
Okay. But you had a little curtain that divided the two. And,
Right.
You know, if I was to ask you how many sets of clothes George had, what would you?
I gonna answer that.
You don't know?
Why would I know? I didn't buy them.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm just asking you, did y'all, what did you have? Did you have like a school clothes?
I had school clothes.
Did you have work clothes?
No, I didn't work.
Play?
I had whatever I had it.
Okay. But y'all didn't have a whole lot of clothes?
No, we didn't have a whole lot. But see, it was a store up on the highway. It was an everything store.
Right.
It sold everything in that store. And sometimes my mother, if she worked for people, they'd give her clothes and things for us. So we used what we had and what people gave us.
Okay.
You know.
So there wasn't a whole lot of clothing?
No, but she always kept us clean.
Do you believe that you would have remembered if there were bloody clothing and that?
I would have.
Okay. And you don't recall seeing that? Is that a no?
I didn't even see that.
And this lady right here who's speaking in his mouth, she's taking down every word she says.
Okay.
So, okay, if you would just yes or no and that sort of thing. So, okay, so she's having to say it, and it's difficult for her whenever you do this, and she's got to say that you
No,
should.
we had enough. We had plenty of food.
Right.
We had clean clothes. It might not have been a lot, but we had them.
Okay. Now, after George and your brother Johnny were taken away, what happened next?
Well, we didn't see Johnny again for a good little while, and we didn't know what happened to him, because he had already signed up to go to the service. And they took George, and Johnny ended up in King Street, and he came back. They threw him out the car.
Well, tell me about that.
On the highway, because when he got in touch with his mother, my mother, he said they threw him out the car on the highway.
Okay.
And he walked, or wherever the closest he was, to King Street. And it took my brother to Manning,
Okay.
okay?
Right.
And I saw pictures with it, but, well, I don't know who did it. Because I got a Jet magazine not some years ago, and I still got it. But I know one thing. Those girls went on about their business, so I don't know what happened to them. And my brother only weighed 98 pounds, was 14 years old. And I feel like if he wanted to do anything, those girls, they would have beat him. 2 girls fighting him would have won.
All right. And I understand that's your opinion, but we'll talk about that later.
Right.
All right. Now, let's get back to what you remember. So Johnny gets, according to you, gets thrown out of a vehicle by the police, and they take George and put him in custody. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. When's the next time you saw George?
I never saw him again.
You never saw him again. Do you remember your parents going to see George before the trial? Is that a no?
That's a no.
Okay. Do you remember, a Mr. Plowden coming to your home and speaking with you, your sister Catherine, or your brother Charles?
I don't think, no, unless he went to something because we had moved, so I couldn't tell you. That was the truth.
Okay, so nobody ever tried to track you down and try to find you as a witness?
So,
Okay. Tell me about the night that you had to leave and go to Pinewood. You remember that event?
yeah, my sister keeps saying that we were at the train, but I remember my mother had a friend named, we call him Pat.
Okay,
He was from India,
okay.
and he had a car, and he came and got us and took us out of Dodge.
So why did he come get you?
Because he had heard my father had gone ahead to try to find some place for him to stay, and came back to get us.
Okay. But why did y'all have to get out of town that night?
Because we heard the mob was coming to take us out.
The family?
Yeah.
And was your parents concerned for the safety of you and your siblings?
Yes, they were.
Okay, I mean, they already had George, but were they concerned because this lynch mob, for lack of a better word, was coming to get you?
Not me, they were coming to get the family, period.
Okay,
And that was told to me, and that's what I understood, because you could, my daddy just said, yeah, we gotta leave, we gotta get out of here.
was your dad scared?
Yes, he was, he left. He went and got him a place, and he sent me, Brother Bay back to pick us up, because he went to try to find help for us to get out.
Okay, and was your mother scared?
Of course, why wouldn't you be?
Well, I asked you, Amy, and I'm
Yes.
asking you this because I wasn't there, and obviously I wasn't even born.
She was afraid.
Okay.
She was afraid for us, and we was afraid for her, and we were afraid for ourselves.
Okay, and was she upset?
Yeah, she was crying.
She was crying. Okay, and so did you guys get out of town that night?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and I believe you said someone picked you up in his vehicle?
To my remembrance,
Okay, well, who was this person that picked you up?
well, it was a guy from India. We called him Pat, but he was Brother Bay.
Okay, was he Indian, white, or,
He was one of the foreigners that one of my mother's friends had married.
okay, all right, so he's just somebody who had a vehicle?
Yes.
Okay,
He had an old-fashioned vehicle too,
and I was gonna ask you how you got to the train, was there a train station in Alphaloo?
somewhere.
Huh?
It was there someplace.
Okay, but he picked you up and carried you off to the train station and,
No, he took us to Pinewoods because he was in Pinewoods.
okay, and later on, I guess somebody went to Sumter.
Right.
Y'all may have taken the train from Pinewood to Sumter?
My father went to Sumter,
Okay,
and we stayed with my grandmother until he found lodging for us
okay,
in
and
Sumter.
your grandmother's name was what?
Maggie Brown.
Okay, and so she had a different last name than Stinney, is that correct?
My
Obviously.
mother was married to George Stinney,
I
and my
understand.
grandmother was named Maggie Brown.
I'm sorry, your grandmother's maiden name or name was Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, did y'all feel like that was a secure place for you to be, that no one could
Well,
find
I
you?
don't think nobody knew where we came from, so that's why we went to my grandmother's house.
Okay. Were your parents concerned that if you didn't get out of town, something was gonna happen? I know you talked about the lynching and all that.
Yeah,
but-
we were afraid.
Okay.
We were afraid.
Did anybody from the sheriff's department come and say to your parents or to you in your presence that, hey, we're gonna protect y'all, we're gonna take care of you and make sure, did that
You
happen?
know, excuse me. The only thing I know, they had police there in uniform. I didn't know nothing about a sheriff or nothing. The only thing I saw was a car.
Right, and that's when George was picked up.
Yeah, when he was picked up, I saw two black, funny-looking cars.
And I believe we had talked about the fact that you don't remember talking to any attorneys prior to this event, is that correct? Prior to George being convicted?
No.
Did you talk to any attorneys, did your family talk to any attorneys after the fact? Is that a no?
They didn't talk to anyone.
Did
And
your
they
family, did your family have the money or the means to hire somebody to appeal George's conviction?
No.
Okay. Do you recall George's funeral?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you recall, was there an open casket?
It was slightly open.
Okay. Do you recall looking in there? Can you tell us what you saw?
He was burned.
You talking about George was burned?
Yes, he was burned.
Was he recognizable?
Not too much, not really.
And when George was buried, where was he buried?
And at Calvary.
Okay. And I think y'all chose to bury him in an unmarked grave, is that right? So yes?
Yes,
Okay. And can you tell the court why you chose to bury him in an unmarked grave?
because we was afraid that people would come and desecrate his grave.
And his grave's still unmarked today? Is that a yes?
Yes, it is.
Now, Ms. Stinney, much has been made about the fact that no one has done anything after this conviction. But let me ask you this question. When he was executed, what could your family do?
What else?
I mean, but what could you? I mean, his brother's dead, right? Is that right? I mean, did your parents talk about this as about, there's just absolutely nothing, I mean, he's dead, what do you do?
Was nothing we could do.
So, between his conviction in April and his execution in June, that would have been the time for someone to have done something. File an appeal, ask for the Supreme Court to stay it, do something in this case, is that correct?
It should have been.
Okay. Do you understand that a lot of people wrote then Governor Olin Johnson letters asking for clemency for your brother?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the fact that the governor had granted clemency to a 16-year-old white boy that same year? Are you familiar with that? And you're shaking your head yes. Can you say yes?
Yes.
Okay. You're familiar with that fact. And but your brother, who was 14 years old, was not granted clemency by the governor.
That's right.
Okay. Of course, I know it, John. Amy, I didn't get any background on you to start with. You currently live where?
In Newark, New Jersey,
And are you retired?
since 1966.
And what did you do for a living?
Before I got married, I worked at the inspector at a place called Mansaw Ceramics.
Okay.
I was the inspector for television and making sure the tubes in them fit right.
Okay. And when did you leave South Carolina?
Oh, I don't know. It was in the 50s, somewhere around up in the 50s.
In the 50s?
Because what I did, I left and I went to Kentucky.
Okay.
And I stayed for a while and I came back. And my sister came up here and I came up and I didn't like it. To Newark, and I went back home. When I got back, most of my friends had disappeared. So I came back again.
Okay. And so how long have you lived in New Jersey?
Officially, I came back in 62, 61 or 62.
And we haven't talked about your father and your mother's educational background. Do you remember what could your father read and write?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. So he had some education, but not a whole lot.
He had enough to do what he wanted to do.
Okay. Did he have, do you know how far he went in school?
I never asked.
Okay. How about your mama?
Not for.
Okay, your mama didn't have a whole lot of educational background?
Mm-mm.
And I think I recall you telling me that George actually wrote letters for her.
He did.
Okay, and, did he write letters for your father too?
No.
Okay, but he wrote letters for your mother?
Yes.
Okay, and, so between April when George was convicted and when he was executed in June, did your family, were they contacted by anyone from the state of South Carolina about an appeal in this case? Is that a no?
That's no.
Okay. Did Mr. Plowden come see you or your family and ask you about an appeal
No.
that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of. I didn't see him. For a fact, I don't know who he is.
You know he didn't?
No, I don't know him.
And what have you done in the years since George's execution? What have you done in the years since George's execution that that's trying to get this case overturned?
Search for the truth.
Okay. And if you talked to various media outlets?
I talked to a lot of people, and I have a lot of material that was sent to me.
Okay. And, but have you ever been able to have an attorney that came forward and said, we're willing to handle this case for you until now?
No, we never did. I wrote to various people. A lot of people went and they got material. I got it all home. And I think I gave you a copy of somebody sent me a paper. They've been sent. I had these things. I didn't know what to do with them. I reached out to Oprah Winfrey to help. She said no. I reached out to other people. They said no. So I said okay. Then I took my eyes and I looked upon the Lord and I asked him. I said, Father, I want to know what you can clear this up.
So you went to various people to try to get help and nobody would help you? Is that correct?
Yep, and then I met Mr. Frierson.
Okay. And that's George Frierson?
Yes.
And at some point in time, my law firm got involved in this?
Right.
Okay. When your parents, when George was electrocuted, what was the reaction of your parents? I know they were upset, but can you tell the court, so you can describe for them how they reacted to that?
I'm going to object to that.
Okay. Sustained, it's not relevant in this case. I think we've established that he in fact was electrocuted. I think we need to move on to what we're
Okay.
here for.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, I believe that's all the questions I have on direct.
Steve, I got one more. Work it over, John. I know, but that's okay.
All right, Amy, one of the things on George's educational background, he was in 7th grade. Do you
Getting
recall
ready to
that?
go to the 8th grade, yes.
They held him for a year?
Hmm?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, he was being promoted to the 8th grade. He was in the 7th.
He wasn't in the 7th?
He was in the 7th and getting ready to go to the 8th grade.
Okay. And he was 14 years old, right?
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Solicitor?
Thank you. Please, the court.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ruffner, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
God is good.
All the time. Ms. Ruffner, do you know what this is?
Yeah, well, I have my glasses on, I can see, but I don't.
Do you have your glasses in the courtroom?
I suppose so, I don't know. Yeah, I do.
Can someone assist her in getting her glasses, please?
Hope they clean. Thank you.
If you like.
Thank you.
Can you identify that document?
Yeah, I wrote it. Why?
When did you write it?
Don't ask.
It's at the top corner on the right-hand side.
Oh, major in that. How did you get this?
Your lawyer gave it to me.
What lawyer?
What is, Mr. Steve McKenzie? What is the date on the paper?
This is May the 23rd, 2009.
Is that your handwriting? Where it says May 23rd, 2009? Is that your handwriting?
Could be. This is my name down here.
Do you remember giving an affidavit to somebody who was a notary public for the state of New Jersey in 2009?
No, I don't.
Do you see a signature on that paper?
I see a signature.
Is it your signature?
Yes, this is my signature. And this is my girlfriend that signed it.
Your girlfriend was the notary public?
Yes, she was.
Did you sign it?
Yes, I did.
Did you attest to the truthfulness of what was in the statement?
Well, did you read it?
I did read it. Did you read it?
Yes, I did. I
Is
wrote
it true?
Yes, it's true.
In 2009, you wrote that statement for who?
Writing it for myself.
For yourself.
I didn't have a lawyer.
And after you wrote it, what did you do with it?
Oh, probably put it. I don't know. You got it, so maybe you took it.
May I see the statement?
Sure.
In the statement, would you agree with me, it says to whom it may concern?
Yes.
And does it contain 2 typewritten paragraphs?
Yes, it does.
Did you type them?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you give the information to whoever typed it?
Maybe I did.
You don't remember?
Nope.
Okay. In the first paragraph, you talk about your family and Pinewood and moving and Catherine was in the 3rd grade. Do you remember all that? Do you remember saying this in the paper?
Sweetheart, let me say something. A lot of times, I got a lot of hurdles in my life. Maybe I did, maybe I don't.
Well, let me ask you this.
What?
If you can't remember what you wrote down in 2009, why should we believe that you can believe something that happened in 1944?
Because I was alive in 1944.
Okay. I think everybody needs to step down. If you want to give her a copy of her affidavit and allow her to review it,
I was alive.
Did you write that statement in 2009?
Maybe I wrote it
All right.
and someone typed it.
solicitor,
Yes, ma'am.
give her an opportunity to review the statement, and then you can ask her any question you would like. Ma'am, go ahead and take an opportunity to review it.
You know what? I think I was getting ready to write a book.
You're getting ready to write a book.
Yeah, write a book, a little thing, a reminder of what happened. Put my thoughts down on paper.
Ma'am, his question is directed to, is that your statement?
Yes,
And
it
Did you
is.
write it?
Yes.
And his question was, is it truthful?
Yes, it's truthful. This is truthful.
Okay. Solicitor,
Thank you. Would you read the last sentence on that page, Ms. Ruffin?
At home, I ran the water in the tub. The cow finished drinking water. My brother put the car in the shed, and we went into the house to eat and start our schoolwork.
So on Friday night, you and your brothers and sisters finished your chores and went to do your schoolwork.
I didn't say my brothers and sisters. I said my brother and I.
That would be George and you.
That's right.
And you all had schoolwork for the next day?
We always did our schoolwork ahead of time. Because my mother said, you do it now, you won't have to worry about it later.
All right. So you all worked on schoolwork for Friday night.
Oh, yes, we always did.
Do you remember going out anywhere?
We didn't go anywhere. There was nowhere to go.
All right. And you testified that based on your recollection, George went with his father later that night to go searching for the girl.
Because they came through and asked the people in the neighborhood to help look for them.
Is that in the statement?
No, I didn't put that here.
Okay. Did you put in the statement that any of the other things about getting in the chicken coop when the men came with the
I
funny
didn't have to
calls?
write that. I did that. I didn't have to write that down. I got in there.
Okay. You didn't put that in the statement.
Why would I? That's the part of life that I live.
And you're getting in the chicken coop so that...
I did not know the people, so I called myself hiding.
All right. And that wasn't important in 2009?
It was
put in your
important to
statement?
me to hide from them because I didn't know who they were.
All right. And how long did you hide in the chicken coop?
Until they stayed until I saw them breaking my brother's out.
All right. So how long did you stay in the chicken
I
coop?
wouldn't know.
Do you remember living in Alcaloo and playing and going around the town?
In that what town? There wasn't no town there.
Around the area where you lived?
We couldn't go no place without my mother say so, okay?
All right. And so you went to school
Yes, I did.
and you came home.
Yes, I did.
And your mother would be home.
Yes, I
And-
After she got up for work, she came home.
So sometimes she would not be home when you got there.
Of course, it all depends on that she had to clean the kitchen up in the school that she worked at.
And after you and your brother would do the chores, take care of the cow, you would come back home and stay at home, do your homework, and get ready for school the next day.
Of course. But see, you're missing the point. It was my brother, 2 brothers, and my sister. Okay? It was 4 of us there.
All right. And when you wrote that paper in 2009, did you talk to them, your brothers and sisters, about what you remember?
No, this is for me.
Okay.
For me,
Have you ever written any more papers?
maybe.
Did you give them to your lawyer?
What lawyer? No, I
That's-
didn't
that's not
because
your lawyer?
I didn't have a lawyer at that time,
Do
okay?
you have a lawyer now?
Yeah,
Did you give him any other
maybe
papers?
I did. Not other papers, maybe I give him this one.
You don't remember if there were other papers that you
It
wrote?
was others I wrote, but I didn't give them to no one.
Okay. When it came time for you to go to the funeral, what did you ask your parents had happened to George?
Who said that?
I'm asking. You have a family, you're getting ready to go to a funeral for a family member. What did you ask your mom and dad?
I didn't ask them anything because I already knew what had happened. I didn't see my brother from the time they took him until they killed him, okay?
And during that time, you didn't know why they took it or what had happened?
I knew they took him. And then later on, everybody say they have accused him of killing those girls. And I knew that was a lie.
And that's all you know?
That's all I know. And
You
I,
didn't ask your mother and father?
well, because we had friends coming over. And the pastor from the church that we went to something, he came over. He talked to us.
What about after the funeral? When it was just you and your mom and your dad?
What do you think happened after? We were devastated.
Yes, ma'am. And did you never ask, why did George get taken out of the family?
My mother wasn't home, so how would she know?
She wasn't home?
She was at school working, okay?
So from the day of the funeral to today, you've never had a conversation with your mom and dad about what happened to
I
George?
never asked because my mother and father is dead.
And from the time of your, I believe I was told by Catherine that your mother passed last. From the time that Catherine, your mother passing, and it was just the children living, from that time to now, you never hired a lawyer to look into this case. You never wrote the book to set the record straight. You just waited on some good lawyers to call you and say, we'd like to take the
I
case.
wrote a lot of papers, but I never gave them to a lawyer. They were for my benefit.
I thank you, ma'am. May I
I
have my
thank you
paper back?
too. Sure, you can have it back. But my name is on it.
Just one call here. Mr. Finney asked you about, your mother, passing away.
Yes.
Did your mother tell you anything on her deathbed?
No, she didn't talk to me. She talked to my girlfriend.
Okay, so you don't know what she said?
No, she wasn't dying at the time. She was in the little room. She had stayed with me. You know, she came during the weekend and stayed because she was kind of sick, so I let her stay there with me. And my girlfriend lived next door. Her name was Delaney Austin. And she came over and she talked to my mother. And she was telling me about, because
I
about,
object at this point.
well, I'm talking about something different. My older brother had died, Leroy. And they was talking about him because my cousin owned a funeral home, Fleming's in Manning, and she had got his body from New York. My mother was talking to her about him, and then she brought up George. She said the only thing she ever wanted was her son in
Okay,
Claire.
number one.
And that was it.
Sustained, obviously. It's hearsay, it's not appropriate.
Thank you. All the questions I have.
Ma'am,
Yes, dear.
who is your lawyer representing you in this case?
Mackenzie, what were they? I never had lawyers before.
Mr. McKenzie, all right, ma'am. And does he represent anyone else?
Not that I know.
Okay. Ma'am, additionally, is your elder brother, Johnny Green, still living?
Johnny died.
He's passed away?
Yeah,
How long ago did he pass?
about 2 years ago. Well, see, before he died, Johnny was in a what you call it, a nursing home?
Right. Assisted living home or a nursing home?
A nursing home.
Okay. All right.
He had,
Did you ever speak with your brother when you got older about his detention and then release by the police?
with Johnny,
Yes, ma'am.
you couldn't talk to him. He would only let you know. See, my brother was like this. Johnny loved people. When that happened to him, Johnny hated everything that walked. He did. He did. He hated everything that walked because he said they took my brother and they killed my brother.
What did Johnny go on to do after he grew up?
He worked for the school system as a driver. They go pick up different things and would take back to the school, you know. He worked around the school, but he had a good job. He
Where
did
did he
good.
live?
In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn?
Mhm.
Okay. Ma'am, did you ever consider before either this affidavit in 2009, which I understand you state that you wrote because you thought about writing a book, but had you ever considered before now coming forward?
Well, at that time, you know, when you, my husband died, I was expecting, like I said, I had kids, and my husband died in 2001. Some guys came to my house, and my son allowed them to stay upstairs. And they called to my son to get him out the house, and they did. My husband's a longshoreman, and he was on his way to work that morning. He had to be to work. He was a heavy lift driver. And as he opened the door to walk out, the police had the guns in his face. And not for him, but looking for the guy that was there. And my husband had a heart attack. He didn't ever recover.
Ma'am? I'm sorry. I
He
couldn't-
never recovered.
Okay.
So he died in 2001 when the towers fell in the air. He died.
Okay. My question to you is, did you ever consider bringing this case when there were still potentially some
Well,
witnesses?
just, you know, like I say, when you have help and can talk to people that try to lead and guide you, it's good. But when you try to do something by yourself, it's hard.
I understand that, ma'am, but if you'll let me finish my question. The
Okay.
question is, did you consider bringing this case or seeking someone out when these people and potential witnesses in the trial of this case were still living? Because certainly that would make this process easier. Obviously, you are one of the few people, and you weren't present at the trial of the case.
You know.
So again, did you consider it back, late 60s, 70s, 80s,
Well, I reach
90s?
out to different people, and I got a lot of things, material that they sent me from Charleston, from a cop from upstate New York. He went down and searched for the truth, and he sent me papers and other people. I got a lot of papers on that people sent me over the years, and I try to show the people, and I give my son something. And then I met Mr. Franson, and I showed him things, and reach out to him for help, because I tried.
Okay, ma'am.
I really tried.
I appreciate it. Does anyone have any further questions of this witness?
I have one question,
Go ahead, Mr. McKenzie.
Ms. Ruffin.
Yes.
After your brother was electrocuted by the state of South Carolina, what remedy could your family have asked for from the state of South Carolina that you were aware of?
Like such as?
I mean, could they bring your brother back to life?
No.
So in your mind, that was it. Is that correct? Is that the mind of your family? Is that the mind of your father and mother?
No, my mother and father, they grieved for my brother. What could they do? They didn't have no money.
They had no money.
They
Okay,
didn't have nothing.
but in your mind, I mean, he's dead. What else can we do? Is that right?
We can clear his name.
I'm sorry?
I would love for his name to be cleared.
I understand that now, but as far as procedure, you're not a lawyer. You don't know the
Right.
ins and outs.
I don't
of
know
course
the
of it.
ins and outs of it, so what could I do?
But they killed your brother, and I think they killed your brother on June 16th. On June 17th, what remedy was available to bring your brother back to life?
Nothing.
That's all the questions I have.
further. You may step down.
Thank you.
Who is your next witness?
Your Honor, that would be the video testimony of Bishop Charles Stinney, who was his brother.
How long is that video?
I think it's 45 minutes. Roughly 45 minutes.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a very brief recess, if we don't mind. Ladies and gentlemen, by the clock, I would like to return back into the courtroom at 3:10, where we can go ahead and begin the video. All right, we'll be at ease until then.
Thank you.